this town hall. We're going to talk about Elon. We're going to talk about Trump. We're going to talk about how we fight in this fight right now. It's very, very important that Lincoln is in this fight. We continue to be in it. Right now, the Democrats are kind of dragging a little bit. We're seeing them do some things at town halls that we're really impressed with, but overall the messaging has been lacking. So we're going to provide that today. I'm going to kick this over to Rick Wilson. Y'all want to hear from him anyway. And he's going to talk to you a little bit more about what we're doing this year. Rick.
Hey, everybody. Look, if everything's working properly, this show is streaming right now on YouTube, Blue Sky, and Twitter. So just because I know that there's nothing the right wing loves more on Twitter. So then, just because I know that there's nothing on Twitter. So then, just because I know that there's somebody's got their screen on. So then, just because I know that there's somebody's got their screen on. So then, just because I. All right, we're going to try this again. Just because I know the MAGA snitch culture loves to report anything to Elon that is said about Elon. Since Elon banned me last week for outlining to America how we could wreck Tesla's stock price, and he got very, very angry because he's a thin-skinned little bitch. Elon, bro, more rockets, less ketamine. That would solve a lot of your problems right now. Get out of Washington. You've already lost the public relations battle. It's over. You are about as popular now as radioactive herpes. But to move on with the show, folks, we are looking at two big things right now. The year 2025 is starting to shape up much better than a lot of people think. Is Trump doing crazy unconstitutional things? Absolutely. Are we in a legal and constitutional crisis? 100%. Are a team of drunken jackasses sharing top secret messages on Signal while we're trying to wage a war against the Houthis? Yeah, they are. Is Trump worse and more vengeful and more petty and more terrible than he's ever been before? 100%. Is he trying to cut Social Security, the VA, and everything else? Yes. Everything he's doing is deeply unpopular in this country. Take yourself out of the bubble for 30 seconds. People are scared to death about the economy. They voted for Trump in a lot of cases because they thought the economy was going to be magically fixed. He's made it worse. He's made it more dangerous, more shaky, more uncertain. The things Musk is doing right now in Washington with Social Security, veterans, air traffic controllers, everything else, all the chaos, all the BS. These are going to have a political weight on Republicans. So 2025 is about a few special elections and a lot of narrative settings. It's going to be a very important election as we go forward for one big reason. This is going to require every Republican to take on what has happened in Elon's name. Everything that's going on in Elon's name is poison politically. Those Republicans are going to have to own it. We're going to make them own it. We're going to make Elon increasingly unpopular. We started out, when I wrote that article about Tesla, it was kind of a back of the envelope thing. It's now a plan. You'll be hearing about it more in the coming days. We're talking to major donors about it as we speak. But the real shape of the battlefield, folks, has to be created by activism and by energy and engagement and by not being afraid. It has to be created by people like you. We're willing to lead all day long. We're willing to kick in the door. We're willing to jump in. We're willing to fight as hard as possible. But we're going to have your help as well. So look, we're going to have a big year in 26. We're going to help the Democrats keep fighting. If they want to follow how we fight, it tends to work. And I want to pass this over in a second here to Stuart and Joe, because I believe that that I'm probably running long at this point.
Thanks, everybody. I'm Stuart Stevens. Look, I think that I think in campaigns, you always ask yourself, would you rather be your guy or the other guy? And I would rather be the Democrats here than Republicans. We have a lot of frustrations with the Democratic Party. But it still is the only pro-democracy party in the country. I think that this election has been greatly misunderstood. I do not think it was some seminal shift in American politics. You had a incumbent president, who was at 40% approval rating. Modern politics, no incumbent party's gotten over 2 points better than what the incumbent president was. Harris did a lot better than that. And you had a right track on the country about 27%. And in modern politics, no incumbent party has won when it's below 45%. So what does that mean? That means that it was a great environment for a challenger. And we know by looking at data that another challenger probably would have done better, like crazy South Carolina governor. I can't even believe I'm blanking on her name, which is a positive sign. So I don't think it was an endorsement of Trumpism. And they knew in the campaign that Project 2025 was poison. And now that people are having to drink it, it's not getting less so. So I think it's really important that we not shy away from calling this moment out from what it is. And it is the greatest constitutional crisis we've had since the Civil War. Mike Johnson today is talking about doing away with federal courts. You have to take this stuff seriously. And at the Lincoln Project, we're not about saving the Republican Party. We've said that it has to be burnt to the ground. We're not about trying to, not Chuck Schumer's incredible naivete that if Trump just went away, the Republican Party would come back. That is not going to happen. And we're out here fighting. And I think everyone who's joined us today is part of that fight. And I'm optimistic. I think there's going to be bad days, but I think there's going to be more good days. And I do think we're on the right side of history here.
Ryan, unmute.
I think you need to unmute. Sorry.
You'd think we'd get this after 5 years of doing online streaming, but here we are.
You would think. I thought I was unmuted. Sorry, guys. Joe Trippi is having some technical issues like the rest of us are. And so we're going to kick to some questions to Rick. Rick, what is the most powerful
Elon Musk
strategy
is a
for helping?
thin dick. That's the answer to your question.
It's true. I mean, it's the answer to all questions. What is the most powerful strategy for helping Republican senators do what they know is right? This is coming from Linda O'Toole in California.
Win the House. Honest to God, win the House. 2026, they are not going to do what is right. I mean, New York Times PitchBot, wrote this morning, like, Pete Hegseth should quit immediately, but he's learned his lesson. Signed Susan Collins. They will not change. I mean, Lisa Murkowski is the only one who will say the truth about what's happening. They're afraid that Elon Musk will come and stamp their brains out with $100 million if they don't do what Trump wants. Look at Tom Tillis. Look at Susan Collins. They knew what they were doing when they supported people like Gabbard and Hegseth. They understood what they were doing when they supported Kash Patel. They got it. And so I have to be really cynical about the Senate right now. The Republican races that are coming up are going to be in pretty expensive states on the whole. They're not feeling pressure yet. But if we sweep the House in 26, I promise you there will be a realignment of how the Senate operates on the Republican side. John Thune has about 12 people in the Senate who are actual hardcore MAGAs, the dipshit caucus, I call it. Ted Cruz, Tommy Tuberville, Cindy Hyde-Smith, all the moron caucus. You know who they are. Josh Hawley, Tom Cotton, all those. The rest of them are just afraid. Rick Scott's in there. The rest of them are just afraid. They are petrified because there's nothing in their lives they love more than power and office. And if your life is governed only by power and office, you're not going to change your behavior if you fear that Elon Musk can drop $100 million on your head. Now, if we break his car company in this public affairs plan that we're working on, if we turn Tesla into radioactive waste and get him below margin call, at that point, senators are going to start going, well, maybe that sumbitch can't spend all that money on me. If we disqualify his money as a toxic product in an election, where if the Democrat can message back, hey, by the way, Senator so-and-so is 100% supported by Elon Musk. And that becomes like Senator so-and-so is 100% supported by Osama bin Laden. You end up starting to have a realignment of how the senators think. But it's going to take a lot more. And the House targets are softer, easier to win. Because look, guys, I'll give you a little insight behind the curtain action here. When we go into a race in 2026 to knock out a bunch of these House Republicans, we're not going to go in there and say, Nick LaLota backs Donald Trump 100% of the time. No, we're going to say Nick LaLota voted to cut VA offices here in the district. He voted to cut Social Security phone services for the 49,000 seniors here in the district. He voted to cut air traffic controllers for the 2 airports here in our district. Why? Because Elon Musk told him to. Break the House and you will break the Senate. There's not even in the Republican caucus in the Senate a majority of MAGAs. They're afraid, they'll never admit it, but it's true. They're afraid of Elon.
You know what? It looks like we have Joe Trippi back. So let's talk to Joe. Joe, why are you with Lincoln Project? You're a Democrat, right?
Yeah. Well,
talk to me a little bit about that.
It's another time where the definition is now, not 6 months from now, not 2 years from now in 2026. It's now. In 2020, right after January 6th, when Trump was at his weakness, you saw that was the time to strike. That was the time to prosecute him both legally and politically. And the Democratic Party didn't do it, did not jump in and take it to him then when he was at 35% favorable in the polls. And I watched as the Lincoln Project again took the tip of the spear, and I decided right then and there, that's why I wanted to join with these guys and this group and this team and with all of you. And now here we are in 2024. He's weakened. He's dropped 27 points in favor with Latinos and Hispanics, dropped similar numbers with independents, dropped massively with young people 18 to 29, and consumer confidence has collapsed to its lowest point in 45 years. Now's not the time to play dead. Now's the time to get loud. And once again, it's the Lincoln Project, tip of the spear. That's why I'm here. That's why this is the place that will take the fight. Now, the Democratic Party, I've been a member for a long time. It's going to take them time for the new voices to emerge. It's just the way that party works. We cannot wait. We've got to take it to him now, take it to Elon Musk, and that's why I'm here.
Thanks, Joe. I've got another question. It's coming from Laura Arnold from Sherman Oaks in California. She wants to know what individual citizens can do when Trump controls the White House, the Congress, and pretty much the judiciary. What can we do to resist?
Don't be quiet. Don't be quiet. There's my bald head. Don't be quiet. Just don't be quiet. Get a cat and don't be quiet. This is Elton. He came to visit just now. Look, you've got to be unafraid of this guy. Okay, he's got a loud voice and a loud media platform, but Donald Trump cannot break you as an American unless you let him break you as an American. He can do a lot of things right now to cause a ton of damage. They are fundamentally being challenged in the courts. The courts, he does not have complete control of the judiciary at this moment, and God bless, because we would be in a much deeper hole if he did. Keep fighting him every day. One of the things here that authoritarians always want to do, they want to make you feel like it's hopeless. And your question is understandable, it's explicable, but it is part of their communications plan to make you feel like nobody can fight them, make you feel like nobody can get up in the morning and say, not going to do this. Not today, boss. Yes, volunteer. for races. Yes, do the text banking, the postcarding, the phone calls to key races in the country this year and next year. Absolutely. Donate to causes you believe in. Get out and march. Do those things. Because what all of those things say isn't just that you've picked a candidate to support somewhere. Those things say you believe in the country as the founders built it, where citizens had a voice and a role, where citizens had power, where citizens could make their voices heard. It is harder than it's ever been in some ways because they control so much of the media. And a lot of the media is afraid. A lot of reporters are just as afraid as you are. But courage is the highest virtue. Don't be afraid of these people. You know, the response to these guys, like Pritzker said today, is not to capitulate. It's not to bend the knee. It's to punch him in the goddamn nose. And I know how hard that is sometimes for folks who look at this tidal wave of bad news and ugly developments and terrible news stories and this belief that Trump is all powerful. Guys, Trumpism is a Jenga tower. And it looks strong. It looks tall. It looks impervious. But you start pulling out the right blocks here and the right blocks there, and the whole thing comes crashing down. I never wake up in the morning and think, we can't beat Donald Trump. We've beaten him before, guys. We beat him in 2020. Okay? We beat him in 2018. As an organization, we're not Republicans, we're not Democrats, we're Americans. If you want to join a group of Americans who seek one thing, and that is to get back to a country where we do fight about policy, where we do fight about the tax rate, where we do fight about the questions of how to accomplish goals that we all broadly share, a stronger economy, better healthcare, American families getting a fair shake in the world. There are ways to approach that from the left and the right and the center. But we can't do that if we have an authoritarian guy who stays in power and his people who empower him stay in power. So it's hard to knock Trump out in a second term. He's already in office. We're not going to get him impeached. So don't believe in any of that stuff. But you can make his life a living hell. And part of what you do as an individual citizen to make his life hell is to never sit down and go, I can't do this. I'm afraid. Don't be afraid of this guy.
That is a great answer. And I'm here to also say that the Lincoln Project is full of staff who are young, a lot of them under 30 years old. And if they can stand up, so can you. I mean, without question. The next one is for Joe Trippi. It comes from Barbara Gallagher in Tennessee. Why aren't more Dems getting tough with the insane actions the current administration is doing?
Well, like, look, as I was saying, this party, it doesn't move that way. It is new voices will be emerging. They are emerging. Jason Crow, Seth Moulton. I mean, and a bunch of governors that are stepping up right now. But you cannot wait for them. I'm just saying they will emerge. But the problem will be that, you know, there won't be a quote opposition leader until they nominate somebody in 2027 or 2028. You know, I mean, around then. I don't think that's the right way to think about this. The way that our whole problem has been, I think, that we all because you know, we participate in elections every 2 years, we all believed that we were fighting a campaign battle, an election battle from 2016, 2018, 2020, 2022, every 2 years. They had a authoritarian, anti-democratic movement. This movement is being built for 20 years, 30 years to do exactly what they're doing. We have to stop seeing this as a partisan fight or why the Democrats. It's what Rick just said. This is a fight for America, and there has to be a pro-democracy movement to fight it. And that's what the power you have is to find one more friend, one more coworker, one family member, just one this week to join us, to join the movement to take America from these bastards. And if we all do that this week, and next week we find one more friend. And by the way, some Trump MAGA person that you haven't talked to in a long time, find one. Because that's your power. And you have tremendous power. You have economic power. Stop spending, start saving. The more you stop spending, the more you save, the better you're going to be able to protect yourself, your family, and this movement. And so I think there's lots of things you can do. And one of them is to not lose faith in your power to do what needs to be done, because you're much more powerful than they want you to believe you are.
That's right.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Rick, should Elon Musk be the centerpiece of the Democrat strategy to retake the U.S. House and the U.S. Senate in next year's midterms? This is coming from Benjamin in Minnesota.
Look, Elon Musk right now is about as popular with most voters as radioactive herpes. This guy is not popular. He is doing things that are not popular. He is also, and I mean this in a sort of, you'll think I'm being flippant here, he's just fucking weird. And Americans can only take so much weird. And the more they get to know this guy, the more detached he seems. When he went on TV and said, oh, Social Security is a Ponzi scheme, the White House lost its damn mind. Because they understood what you've got is the richest man in the world telling grandma she has to go eat cat food. Telling people who work their whole life and who depend on Social Security or Medicare that they're screwed. So Elon can get a tax cut. Here's what Democrats should be doing every day. You should be talking about how crazy and weird all this is and how much it's hurting real people. Stop talking about anything except real stories of real people. I know Democrats love policy. They love it. They love it like I love pumpkin pie. Okay. But right now it's better to tell the story of somebody that you know who's being hurt by this, that you know is going to suffer from this. That if you can tell a personal story to your friends, your family, your MAGA relatives and say, well, look, if they cut Social Security, I'm moving in with you, kiddo. If they end Medicare, I don't know how I'm going to stay alive because I won't be able to pay for my dialysis or whatever it is. Telling personal stories rather than arguing 30,000-foot policies is what gets to the emotional heart of people in the country. And you want to be in that emotional heart. And right now, people are scared of Elon Musk because he's rich and he's cruel and he's a shitty human being. And also, by the way, as I've said before, there are two things that I have a lot of flaws, but I'm not a ketamine addict and I don't have a botched penis surgery. Those are allegations about Elon. I don't know if they're true or not. They could be.
Rick.
My lawyer's probably like, motherfucker.
Another one going.
I don't know if it's true or not.
Another one going to you. What are your expectations on when Elon Musk will get frustrated and bored with Doge and go back to attempt to repair his failing businesses? Coming from Jack Spain of South Carolina.
Well, Jack, thank you for that question. Here's what I think. I think Elon right now is in a very bad spot with Tesla. And folks, one of the things I wrote about in this article on my Substack, which is now free because the MAGAs were all saying it's behind a paywall, he's calling for death. Bullshit. But anyway, all of Elon's wealth is tied into the price of Tesla's stock. All of it. Yes, he owns half of SpaceX and it's making money, but nothing compares to the Tesla stock price. If you get his stock price down about another $80, which is easily possible at this point, it's down 62% from where it was. Get it down another $80 and he's got margin call. That means they got to put up or shut up. Elon Musk got a $54 billion pay package from Tesla that is being contested in the Chancery Court of Delaware to this very day. But if you break Tesla, you break him. Now, if you get to the point where Tesla starts to really crash out in the market, which it will, and it is, the sales are down 80% in Germany. They're down 60 something percent in Europe. They're down 20 some percent in America. This is a spiral he can't get out of unless he leaves Doge, leaves Washington, goes back to building cars and rockets. And you know what? People bought the cars because they thought, I'm going to help the climate. And these cars are built by the lovable weirdo nerd, Elon Musk. And being weird then didn't matter. Being weird now when it's giggling about cutting grandma's Social Security and ending veteran suicide crisis hotlines, that doesn't work the same way. Markets, I say this as a free market guy, are magic. And the market will push Elon out of DC eventually, but there's also a little bit of a fear bunker vibe going on with him right now. So I don't know. He may be willing to sacrifice Tesla in order to sacrifice Granny not getting Social Security,
which is disgusting. But yes,
yeah.
This one's going to go to Stuart. We have two that are very similar. Elise from New Jersey and Tom from Ohio want to know, how can we reverse the destruction that Doge is doing, and can this all be fixed once Trump leaves? If he leaves.
Yeah, I do think it can be fixed. I think what we're having here is basically a stress test of what it is that people expect from government. And I don't think that you can unwind this. There's nothing worse than taking something away from people. And in campaigns, it's very difficult to get anybody to believe that you're going to cut their taxes, but it's not that hard to get them to believe that the other person's going to raise their taxes. So the negative consequence is always easier case to make. And I think what you're having here, if you just step back from it and said, okay, since Ronald Reagan, Reagan used to have this line that he used, which those of us who were Republicans laughed at, sort of. He said, the most dangerous words in the English language are, I'm here from the federal government to help. And one of the fundamental problems that Republicans always had is, why do you want to be in a government business if you hate government? And how do you say this to people who the government has in many ways been their best hope to rise up in their life? From getting a job in the post office to the military, to student loans, to Pell Grants. So you have now a force that is increasingly seen as negative, will be seen as evil, that is trying to take away this stuff. You start talking about taking away Social Security. You had this commerce secretary, this like cartoon billionaire going out and saying, if somebody misses a month of Social Security, like my mother-in-law, well, she doesn't notice it. It's only if you're a scammer that you would notice this and you would complain. Well, let me just guess that, like, if you're a grandmother and your son-in-law is a billionaire, you're probably not waiting on your Social Security check. But that's a pretty small universe of people. So I think this is going to strike fear at a lot of these Republicans when they start getting the feedback from, I now have to drive 120 miles to go to a Social Security office. I've been on hold for 5 hours at a Social Security line. What happens to the airlines when this stuff happens? People start to hate them, and they have to completely change how they operate. So, look, I think that Republicans are in the business of trying to say that what you love, you don't love, and what you need, you don't need. And that's a very bad business to be in. So I think when people are loud, they complain, they show up at these town halls, that's when it's really going to start
right
at home. And look, I think everybody, maybe Joe didn't, but I know Ryan has and Rick has, and I have. We've worked in congressional offices for at least a brief period of time.
Yeah.
They actually read all the mail, and they actually care what people say, and they actually can get panicked if they start getting a lot of phone calls. It is a very sensitive to public opinion structure. Yeah. So voice your opinion.
Guys,
go ahead, Ryan.
Go. No, you go. Go.
I'm going to say I was a legislative correspondent on the Hill. That was my very first job out of college. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you can tie up the phone lines on Capitol Hill, they cannot work. They can't get their jobs done because they're too busy. Everybody, all of the aides are having to answer the calls that are coming in through the office. They cannot get their jobs done. And the same thing works at your state governments too. If your state government is in session and there is something that is happening that you guys don't like, blow up the phone lines. In my opinion, it's more effective than writing letters, because when you're writing letters, it's a 23-year-old who's responding to them. The congressman may or may not even see them, because especially if it's a form letter. So make the letters personal and make the phone calls. There's a great app, 5 calls, do it. It works. Rick, go ahead.
Y'all, one of the indicators that I have always used in watching elections, and I've been I've been talking about this now for a couple of months. You've probably heard me say it. Corruption is a killer app, and dissension in the public is a killer indicator. In 1994, Democrats were laughing off the House post office scandal, the House bank scandal, and this long incumbent Democratic history that was a pretty shady deal. They were laughing about, oh, nobody cares. That's an insider story. Well, all of a sudden, they started going back to their districts, and people were like, the fuck is this? You can bounce a check and I can't. You get free postage and I don't. It seems like a small ball thing, but it started to build up. And it started to build up faster. And 1994 was a very bad year for Democrats. 2006. Republicans were like, oh, people are patriots. They still support the war and the president, and it's going to be fine. And if you don't vote Republican, you're with bin Laden. And the economy is shitty because of the, Democrat. Nobody bought it. And in those town halls, Republicans were getting the shit kicked out of them in 2006. And all of a sudden, the Democrats have a huge year. 2010, Democrats said Obamacare is magic and everyone loves it. No one actually really loved it at the grassroots at the time. And you ended up with a blowback. And Democrats were in their town hall meetings going, why don't you like this? It wasn't explained to them well. It wasn't sold properly. And they got blown out. 2018, Democrats blow the hell out of Republicans. The Republicans were in their town hall meetings being asked by Republicans, why are you getting rid of my Affordable Care Act coverage? I know the irony is rich, right? We are in a moment where the Republicans are so shit scared, they won't show up to talk to their constituents. My congressman, Neil Dunn, put out a newsletter the other day, not about the VA cuts, not about the massive education cuts that are hitting my district, not about any of the other things that are happening here, not about the Medicare, not about Social Security. He put out a newsletter about a guy who caught a big fish off Panacea. They are scared to death. They are mortified. If you know of a Democratic town hall, being as a substitute town hall, don't just go. Make sure you call your Republican member of Congress's office, the local office and the national office, and say, hey, are you going to be there? Because I'm going to be there and I got questions. I want to know what we're doing. I want answers. I want you guys to scare them by intensely keeping them under the microscope. They need to feel like you're never going to let them up off the mat on this until they come and answer questions. And when they do, as we've seen so far, it is brutal.
Absolutely. That's a fact. Joe, this one's coming to you. Why does it seem Congress, both sides of the aisle, are not pushing back against the untethered Doge actions of Elon Musk? This is coming from Roseanne out of Louisiana.
Well, I mean, first of all, look, it's controlled by by Mike Johnson, and what comes up, what gets to the floor, all of that is in the pocket of Donald Trump. I mean, that's what's going on. Certainly, there are individual members who are going out, like Jamie Raskin and others, like calling it out and fighting and raising where they can in committee and all that stuff. But this is why the House in 2026 is really the most important thing. We've got a lot of things we got to do now. Obviously, Virginia, other races are coming up, but 2026, the House, the right candidates, the right message. and taking it to the 16, 17, 18 Republican incumbents that need, and really putting, and that's why what Rick was saying right now is they fear Trump and they fear being primaried and all that, but they need to fear you. They need to hear your voice and a lot. And we have to make them feel the tip of the spear, because when we do that, we go into 2026 in those targeted races, we get the House back. That's how we push cement into the gears, because that's when House investigations, other things happen. But until then, there's just no, individual voices, Jason Crow, others, yes. And you're going to hear more from them. But I think right now, the reality is they have to hear from you. That's where it's going to grow. And get back to repeating what I said earlier, find one person to join us. Find one friend, one family. You have the power to do that. It's something you can do that, and you can do it every week. And if we keep growing and growing and growing and showing up at the town halls and putting the pressure on them, we will crush them in 2026.
That's a fact. That is a damn fact. Rick, I'm going to ask you two different questions that are kind of similar. Okay. One of them is how serious is Trump about wanting to run for another presidential term, and can they allow him to do that? So that's one of your questions. And that is coming from Ed and Anna in New Jersey. And then the other one is Trump finding all of the loopholes that will allow him to control the country, or is he just hoping to find some judges who will bend to his way rather than upholding the law and the Constitution? That is coming from Patricia in Wisconsin. So
I'll answer the second question first.
Okay.
He is definitely judge shopping. He is definitely venue shopping. He is definitely trying to exercise a reign of intimidation against the courts. He's identifying these judges by name. And I will tell you, this is a very old MAGA strategy. This is a strategy that they, ironically, for all that Republicans talk about Saul Alinsky being this dangerous communist radical, they model a lot of what they do after Alinsky. They're trying to isolate the target. So they are targeting these judges. But so far, the rule of law is holding on by a thread, but it's holding on. I also think that he has overstepped enough to where even John Roberts, who is not exactly a profile in courage, had to publicly come out. And the degree to which MAGA folks, even after her little facial expression at the State of the Union and her ruling against Trump, the MAGA folks are now like trying to get him to find a way to replace Amy Coney Barrett. I don't know that she's going to be an ally, but I don't think she is going to be a rubber stamp at this point. There seems to be something shifting in her thinking. And I think she and Roberts are sort of trying to reconfigure the center of gravity in Congress. And Ryan, what was the first question again?
The first question was, again, is Trump going to run for president again? Is he serious about that?
Of course he is.
Of course he is. Of fucking course he is.
They're going to roll him out there in a wheelchair on a breather, and they're going to shove a red hat on his head and a MAGA branded drool bucket under his chin. They will run Trump until a billion years from now. He's the only thing that works at the national level that catalyzes a lot of gravity pulling other Republican candidates up the chain. When Trump's on the ballot, Republicans do a lot better because you get low propensity Republican voters to come out and vote for him. He will try. This will become a massively litigated case. He will lose in court. Individual states will declare he cannot be on the ballot. And the whole thing will collapse. But he's going to do it, everybody. And I want you all to be mentally prepared. He's going to do it because there's never been a more successful business in Donald Trump's entire career than scamming boomers when he runs for president. That is what he's going to do. You should completely expect it. Now, should the Reaper make another decision and take him from us, we could probably expect Don Jr. or some other damn Trump-alike or family member or relative to try to give it a shot because they do believe it's a dynastic thing. But he's going to try, guys. He will try. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Without question. We told you he was going to do this again when we beat him in 2020.
Oh,
and we were right about that too.
I got so much shit in November of 21 because I said Trump is going to run for president again. And I had Trumpers like, how dare you say that? That's outrageous. Ron DeSantis is the future. And I had Democrats saying, don't say that. Don't say that. Guys.
Don't manifest, Rick.
He will never stop until he is stopped.
That's exactly right. All right. Another question. This one's going to Stuart. Stuart, when will the media stand up and ask questions that challenge the credibility and hold Trump and Musk accountable instead of lobbing softball questions each and every day? And this comes from Joel in Ohio.
Look, this is one of the reasons we started this thing called Resolute Square, which is now Lincoln Square, because it's just, I think we have to admit that our journalism has failed us in this moment. And, we're not journalist haters. I mean, collectively, Rick, I, Joe, Ryan, we've written a lot more than most of these journalists. But, you had a generation of journalists, several generations, who were raised on the premise that the greatest good is objectivity. So how do you tell both sides of a lie? And this is what they're struggling with. And, I have sympathy for it, because they don't want to seem as if that they're prejudging. But if you go back and you look at just how the New York Times, which is not a bad indicator of this, how they have handled Trump's lies. It's gone from misled to was incorrect to they're getting closer to just calling him out as, a goddamn liar, which he is. He's a pathological liar. But all of the stuff that Trump is doing to enforce and try to intimidate law firms, try to intimidate media firms, don't think that these people are going to save us. They're not. No. So I think that we're in a moment of great media transition. It's kind of like post-invention of the printing press. And we have to embrace that moment. And you have to find those platforms, and hopefully the Lincoln Project is one. Hopefully Lincoln Square is one. Go on Says Us, which is a fantastic social media alternative to Twitter. It's not being driven by, it's being driven by you and your values. And we have to just wake up and say, no one is going to save us. We are our own heroes, and act like it and embrace it.
I think that's right. Joe, this one's for you. Is it worth trying to flip any of those vacant House seats in the upcoming special elections, or are they out of reach? Is it worth trying to flip any of those? Yeah, no, he just read it twice. It's from Paul in Massachusetts.
I mean, if they're flippable, it's worth doing, even though they may be different in 2026. I think because it shows the momentum of and it puts more fear in the rest of the MAGA members, that they saw that happen. But I wouldn't put a lot of energy or time into it. We've got there are really critical races that matter. The Wisconsin Supreme Court race, the coming up, the Virginia governor's race. We've got to keep our fire. More important is to grow a movement, to not view this as an election but as a movement. There are more of us than there are of them. They're just that is just believe in America, believe in the Constitution, believe in duty and responsibility and opportunity, and the rule of law. And look, the thing is, like in every sport out there, there's rules and there's referees. He's now going after the referees. I mean, the judges. And we have to realize, we have to challenge his rule breaking, because there isn't anybody else out there right now willing to do it. But we have that capacity to grow a real movement. And so I really appreciate Stuart bringing up Says Us. It's SEZ.us. It's in the App Store. It's Google and Apple. But it's a pro-democracy social network that I think we have to do much more than that. It's Lincoln Square. We've got to build a media apparatus that stands up to their propaganda, that stops them from seeping. This movement of theirs 24/7. It pumps poison on social networks and Fox and Breitbart. Is every nanosecond they just keep pushing the poison into the bloodstream. We have to build the voices, the platforms, the social networks to stand up to it, because no billionaire is going to come invest. It's us. It's you. It's you subscribing to Lincoln Square, contributing to the Lincoln Project, helping build a social network like Says Us. That's what's going to do it.
That's exactly right. It's exactly what Stuart says. There is no hero coming. We are the cavalry, and it's up to us. So, Stuart, what can we do to protect Social Security that many have paid into for more than 40 years? This is coming from Denise in Wisconsin.
Raise hell and scare the living shit out of anybody who thinks that they want to kill it.
That's it. That is the way.
You know, Rick and I have made a million ads attacking anybody who wanted to cut Social Security. And a lot of that was sort of pretty ethereal. But now you have the Secretary of Commerce who says, well, people won't miss a month of Social Security. Because
right.
I mean, this is just unbelievable gifts that they're giving us. They're questioning the value of it. You know, there's a little frame of reform you can talk about. You can say maybe retirement age should go to 62 and 20 years. And that's okay. People accept that. But what they're talking about now is fundamentally challenging the need for Social Security. Elon Musk says it's a Ponzi scheme. And I mean, he knows something about Ponzi schemes, but he doesn't know anything about security.
I love that this is on Twitter.
You know, run at it. And it is a incredibly potent political message. So have at it. Have a feast.
And by the way, just as a bit of breaking news that someone just sent me, Elon Musk's own brother is selling. He's on the board of Tesla, and he's selling off his shares of Tesla. You know, that Jenga tower I told you about, shove it. Keep shoving it.
Rick, I have a question for you, and this may wrap it. I think I've hit all the questions. Rick, how is the Lincoln Project putting up resistance? And this is from Stephen in California.
I want you to imagine that photograph of Johnny Cash at the famous Folsom Prison concert, where he puts his middle finger out to the photographer. And in some ways, look, guys, Elon Musk could drop $1 billion on our heads tomorrow, and he wouldn't miss it. But you can't take away courage. You can't take away integrity. You can't take away directness and honesty and skill. We are going to keep fighting this guy until the last dog dies. Look, I've said this a million times. If the Democratic Party had its shit together, you know what I'd be doing every day? I'd be writing books, flying airplanes, and playing with my granddaughter. Okay? But I don't have that world. And none of us do. And we've all committed to this fight for the long haul. And believe me, after 2020, every one of us was like, okay, now we're going to go on with our lives and do something else. And then January 6th happened, and you realized this movement is evil and pernicious and will not ever quit. It will never stop trying to tear this country apart. And so we're going to keep fighting for you. We're going to keep fighting. You know, as much as some of our Democratic friends occasionally roll their eyes, then they call us later and go, oh man, we didn't think about doing it that way. That's cool. We're going to keep doing those things. And look, Democrats are not famously great at narrative and storytelling. That is what we grow up doing in the Republican Party. And the Republican Party today tells a very negative story about the Democrats every single day. And the Democrats don't tell a great story about Donald Trump every single day. They say he's doing X and it hurts a policy I care about, instead of he's doing X and it hurts my grandmother. It hurts me. It hurts my family, my brother, my sister, my cousin, my kid. we're going to keep telling that story about who Trump is to America every day and what he's doing. We're going to keep telling it every day that this is crazy and it's hurting America. And I've written about this a lot. Stuart's written about this a lot. The kind of crowning irony of where we are right now is that Stuart and I, and we're part of this elite Republican consulting class, and we were supposed to be the jaded, cynical guys who do or say anything to win. And it turned out we were the ones who actually believed the bullshit we were selling, that this was a country of laws, not just of men, that the Constitution mattered, that decency and integrity mattered. It was all a lie, as Stuart wrote in a very brilliant book. But today, we have the great luxury. We don't have a client. We don't have a billionaire sponsor who does all this. We work for you. We work for this great country, and we believe in saving it. Guys, I want to go back to the world where we fight tooth and nail about should we have a 35.8% marginal tax rate or a 38.1% marginal tax. I want to go back to that world. We need a country with vibrant political parties that oppose each other and talk things through and work things out and compromise and make steps to make the life of Americans better. What we don't need is to slip into authoritarianism and fear and let these people win. They can win if we let them. And I, for one, I absolutely fucking refuse. And look, if they come and take me someday and they send me to El Salvador, I would like to quote the documentary, Red Dawn, avenge me.
I plan on it. I'm just glad they didn't show up during this town hall.
Right?
I want to thank everybody for participating, for showing up to the town hall.
Amazing crowd tonight, everybody. Thank you. Give yourselves a hand.
Great questions. This was great. I appreciate everybody's involvement. Please remember, Lincoln Project is the tip of the spear, and we are doing the fighting when, some in the Democratic Party and all of the Republican Party are not. We're the ones fighting. We're the tip of the spear. We're not going to stop. And and that's the thing, is we're not afraid. We have staff, like I said, anywhere from in their 20s to on up. And nobody is scared. No one is backing down. Don't be scared. These are idiots that we're dealing with. So
as a 94-year-old man, I will stay in this fight as long as I can.
As long as you can. Looking good for 94 though, Rick. Seriously. I want to thanks, guys. If y'all have any questions, please feel free, send them in to the Lincoln Project.
And if y'all want us to do this again, drop more town halls in the comments. Also, like us, do all that shit.
Absolutely. Let our people know on social media too that are checking. So thanks everybody. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week.